This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Danilo's free. He goes to Gibbs wide. Edge of the box for Ole. Yes! Great goal! What a hit from Ole! Gibbs wide. They've only gone and done it again. Forest back in the lead. Rewarded Gibbs White. Oh, and he scores! And the City ground goes ballistic.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Red Side of the Trent as we preview Saturday evening's visit to Old Trafford to face Manchester United. Obviously a quick turnaround this week with us playing United's neighboured City last night. All my shirts have kind of gone and all in the background. I am away with work, so I'm down in Portsmouth, so I'm in an Airbnb, so I've not been held hostage or anything. But joining me this evening is Gareth Chapman, who's a Manchester United fan. Gaz, you all right, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Thank you. You?
Good. Right. Yeah, not too bad, mate. Still reeling from last night, as I'm sure yourselves are, both being beaten to nil. Both by two very good sides. But obviously for you guys, it's been a really poor start to the season. So first of all, what kind of went wrong for Ten Hag, which obviously led him to getting sacked?
I guess it's as good as mine, really. I think along the way there was just a lot of indecision. It just didn't look. I know the joke was, "Oh, just stick to the plan." But genuinely, from the games I saw, there just didn't seem to be a plan. We could be 2 goals down and he'd bring 2 centre-backs on, and it just, I don't know, I think, when with a good coach or manager and things like that, you always look at like your press conferences and your interviews after the game, and I think that's the difference with the new guy, the fact that he's got a bit of an aura about him, so there's a bit of a confidence there.
Bit of charisma, anti.
Yeah, I just think with Ten Hag it was very flat and very like, I don't know, it was always clutching for kind of excuses. I mean, I was one of the ones that said, yeah, I think he'd be good, obviously, when he was at Ajax. I think even before he came and before Rangnick came, I said that it'd likely be Rangnick to the end of the season and then Ten Hag will come in. And at the time, I think everybody thought similar, or a lot of people did at least, that it would be a bit different. But I mean, he's won a couple of cups, but I think the problem is for Man United, the fans and things like that, I think their expectancy levels are a bit higher than they probably should be. So I think a lot of realizations setting in now that it's not just as easy as winning every league and challenging all the time.
Obviously, you guys on a bigger scale, but you're probably similar to us in the sense that because you obviously had Alex Ferguson, who had that period of dominance, everybody kind of will go back to that. Whereas football's kind of moved on. It was the same with us, obviously under.
Game now.
Obviously, we had Brian Clough when we had that period of success, until obviously recently, it was always kind of like that was the standard you was held to. Where it's like, them days are kind of gone. You know what I mean? And football does go in cycles, really.
It does. I think the way the game's played now as well, I think if you look at like the last team that Fergie won the title with, he probably had no right in winning the league that year with that team, and I think that's what sets him apart a little bit. But the like you say, the game's changed that much that even if you go back to when Leicester won the league, if they played the same football now, they wouldn't win the league. I think the game's moved on a lot. Obviously, Pep's changed the game a little bit, probably not for the better. I think it was a bit more exciting when you could tackle, you could put a few challenges in.
I agree.
But here we are.
And I mean, an honest question to you. I mean, I was fortunate for a friend to go to the FA Cup final, in which he beat Manchester City, and I think City kind of quoted that they was drunk in that final, wanting us hungover. But forget about that. But Man United deserved to win it on the day. Played really well.
Yeah.
After that cup final, did you want Ten Hag to stay, or did you kind of want him to go out on that high?
No, I think it would have been good if they'd have got rid on a high, because if you look at obviously it's been quite well lauded in the press and stuff lately that we're very close to kind of the financial fair play issues and things like that. And I think having tied him down to a contract, that's probably cost us another 15 million that we didn't really need to do. I think if they'd have gone for Amorim at the time, I know City was sniffing round because it was obviously up in the air whether or not Pep was going to be moving on at the end of this season. But I think they could have really gone to town and tied him down in the summer, could have had a pre-season, and could have come into this season with a bit more confidence. But yeah, I think in all fairness, we outplayed City in the final, whether they were hungover or not. They're obviously still a very good team. They were coming at us, but it was a good game. But yeah, I think he should have probably gone at the end of that, to be fair.
Yeah, I did find it bizarre with obviously Jim Radcliffe and his team coming in that they decided to give him another year. I know he had a year left, but in my opinion, you kind of say, well, obviously you just won the FA Cup, so we'll see how you get on this year, and then we'll review it at the end of the season. But obviously Ten Hag, it wasn't working out for him, and then you've gone to Ruben Amorim from Sporting Lisbon. So, what's your kind of early impressions of him? What's he had 4 or 5 games now?
Yeah, I mean, what I do admire a little bit is the fact that he's come in and he just said, look, let's forget this season. Let's kind of treat a lot of the season as a bit of a pre-season and get the team to where it needs to be. He knows that there's players there that don't fit his system. I think the way he plays, you can see the players that aren't going to fit because they don't want to run. There's a lot of players. I think Mount's coming good. I know it's only been a couple of games, but he's played really well in the couple of games he has had. But I think more than anything, I just like his press conferences and his interviews, and he's just very honest. Like, he's not going to be one of these that will overly protect the players. I don't think he'll air dirty laundry and things like that. But I think if someone's made a mistake, he's not going to come out and make himself look stupid and say, "Yeah, it didn't happen." But from what I've seen so far, like, his first press conference was great, and I think, like I said previously, like, he's just got that bit of aura about him.
Eventually, I've not actually seen you since he's took. Well, I did watch against Ipswich actually, but that was kind of first game on it. But I've not seen you play since. So, what kind of style of play / formation is he looking at doing, Amorim?
Well, he's obviously gone with a back three. There's 3 centre backs, and then you kind of right and left wing backs. So I think Diallo's been sat in there on the right hand side. Then they've had a bit of a switch around between, like, Shaw came in, obviously he's injured again, Malacia, and then Dalot's been flipping in and out as well. But obviously, dependent on what happens with Trent, Madrid might even be coming in for him. So, which is a bit of a weird one.
Who's that? Malacia for Madrid?
No, for Dalot.
Oh, for Dalot. Okay, yeah.
So, but obviously, I think they'll probably get Trent anyway. But we'll see. But no, I think. And then he's obviously got, he can either have, depends on who you play really, they can either play with a bit of a playmaker in the middle with a CDM or 2 CDMs, and then have 2 not quite wide players, and then obviously have a striker up top. So I think the problem we've got though with that at the minute, and he's openly said that it's the final third that's our big issue, which is frustrating when you've got people like Bruno that can put a ball on a dime, and you've got nobody at the end of it. But I think Xerxes, he's had a bit of bad press, but I think he's more of a 10 and could work. So we've got a few players in that department, but there's a lot of players that will probably go January and in the summer, to be honest.
Okay. What kind of players are you expecting to go probably over the next 2 windows, would you say?
I think from what I've been reading, Dalot is probably one, which I'm a bit surprised at.
Probably one of your more consistent players.
But obviously, that's probably where people like Madrid are coming in. I think we only paid about 18 million for him, in and around that. So if someone's coming in with a 50 million offer, I think the way that the club's working at the minute, they'll obviously consider that. I don't think any player is unsellable really. For the right price. So I think the likes of Casemiro will be going, Dalot will probably go. I think Maguire will move on, Lindelof. We've got quite a few centre-backs that we can rely on a little bit. Obviously, Johnny Evans about 612 now. And then I think you've got, I do genuinely believe, unless anything changes at the end of this season, Rashford might go in the summer. I know he's been linked with PSG a little bit. But yeah, I think I'm on the fence with like Xerxes and Højlund because they've not really had enough time. Obviously, Xerxes only just come in, which is crazy that people are saying that he's going to be going in January. Considering the fact there's been transfer money changing hands and stuff. So I don't know if they'll work like that. But yeah, I do think there'll probably be 8 or 9 players that will go.
It always seems to be the same names, doesn't it, for Manchester United? Kind of like your Lindelofs and players like that. I mean, he's only 23, Xerxes. I'm just looking him up.
He is.
I've seen kind of the bit of bad press and that for him. Obviously, there has been a change in the boardroom as well. Jim Radcliffe, who's one of the richest men in Britain, I believe, he's 25% he's brought, hasn't he?
He has,
yeah. Obviously, because obviously Manchester United are the biggest club in the country, in my opinion, which I think most people would agree with. The bad press for United is always going to be amplified. So, obviously these cost-cutting measures and all this and this, that. Do you think? What do you think of his coming in? How do you think he's done so far? Do you think he's the man to kind of change the culture of the club, or with the Glazers still there, obviously as majority shareholders, do you still think they need to be brought out at some point for that to happen?
It's really hard. I mean, the Glazers, at the end of the day, no Man U fans are disgruntled at the minute, and I think it's probably because of how much has been spent and the lack of quality that's come in. But obviously, the board previously were terrible. Some of the signings were just didn't make sense. It was like they were just chucking money at anything. And I think, unfortunately, now with football, the whole sentiment of it should be ran like this, it should be done like this, it's a football club, it's this, it's that. People forget that people are investing, like Radcliffe and the Glazers, they're investing millions into something. They're not just going to come in and do it the way that the fans want it to be done.
No, of course not. They're businessmen, aren't they?
Exactly, and whether we like it or not, I mean, I don't agree with the price of tickets and stuff going up. I know that's been a big thing over the last couple of weeks, but that money's got to come from somewhere, and they're not stupid. They've done business plans, they've done all this, that, and the other, and we have to take the rough with the smooth. If it means we're paying 15 quid extra for a ticket for a couple of seasons, then so be it. If it can get us back into a place where we can start doing it again and buying the players that actually work, because I think the board that we've got in at the minute, like the new guys that have come in, they seem to be a bit better, but there's still that element of Glazer there. But they've took a bit more of a back step now. But ultimately, whether we like it or not, they're going to run that business how they want to run it. The goal is to get a new stadium. They want to be bigger. They know they're going to sell out. So it's a money move. So I think whoever you get in, when they were talking about the guy from Saudi Arabia, like he would have done very, very similar things. They're not coming in just to waste money, are they?
No, because it's a financial investment, isn't it, for them?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I mean, how much kind of time do you think it's going to take? Obviously, Ratcliffe and his not going to call them cronies, but his team, and obviously Amorim, to kind of get United back to challenging at the top of the league.
Well, I mean, last night was I was probably one of the fans that came out of it not as disgruntled as I saw somewhere on social media. I mean, some of the comments, I follow on Facebook like loads of different Man United pages, and some of the comments on there are just stupid. It's literally his third league game, fourth game in charge, and openly said that he needs a lot of time to be able to get it into his system. The tempo is completely different. But last night, we only conceded from set pieces. So I think the overall play, we managed to stop them getting to where they wanted to be. Arsenal are quite a free-flowing, they'll put intricate passes here and there, and we were quite lucky in some respects because Onana saved us a couple of times, but that's what they're there for. But I just think our biggest issue is definitely our front three, if you like, and who is going to play that. And we just seem to run out of ideas when we get to that final third. So I think unless that's resolved, we ain't challenging for a couple of years unless it does genuinely change. But we'll see.
I mean, in your opinion, who would be your front three? Who would you kind of hang your hat on for your front three, in your opinion?
From the current squad?
From the current squad, yeah.
I think with what we have right now, I'd probably say, whether I like it or not, you've got to look at Rashford, Bruno, and Højlund. They're who you'd say are your best three. Bruno obviously gets in there anyway. You could swap maybe Rashford for Xerxes, depending on, again, who you're playing, whether you need a bit more physicality. I think Højlund is obviously one of our only real striker options. There's an out-and-out striker. You could probably, again, depending on who you're playing, you could swap him around with Rashford. Rashford's played up top before. He's got the pace. If you're playing a bit more like your Newcastles and stuff like that, they've got a bit of a slower defence, you could maybe get in there with your pace. But yeah, I think I'd probably go Bruno, Rashford, Højlund.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, because I've obviously been hearing a few like really good reviews about Amad Diallo. Obviously you got Garnacho, haven't you? And also someone out on loan in Jadon Sancho still, who might come back and hammer him mine. Yeah, I agree, but you never know in football, do you? Just talking about one of them players in Marcus Rashford. You know, he had that season a couple of years ago, wasn't it now, where he was absolutely on fire. And then since kind of then it's gone downhill for him. Do you think that season was kind of a flash in the pan, or do you think is as rated as some say? And do you kind of think his time at United has come to an end and he could do with a fresh start? What do you think on Rashford?
I think for him, and it's probably the club's fault, obviously they negotiated an obscene contract. I think he's on probably $3 to $350 a week, which is absolutely obscene, considering that you'd think of that for someone like Mbappe. I mean, I know he's on more than that, but even, do you know what I mean? That caliber of player, which
I get you, yeah.
Rashford's a million miles away from that at the minute. I think he's got it in his locker where he can be, and he's proved it. Like, he's had those seasons. I know that could be confidence and form, but I think there's been a big fallout with the fans. Like last night, there was a bit of an issue. I think he'd given a bit of a two-finger salute to the away fans and stuff. So there's people kind of kicking off about that a little bit. But ultimately, I think for him, like, he's had that much abuse over the last 12 months. No matter how much you paid, like, you shouldn't have to put up with that. I know people say, look, they're getting a load of money, shed loads of money. They should just get on with it. But we're all people at the end of the day. Like, I've been one that said that he needs to go, but people just take it that bit too far. So I do think in the at the end of the season they'll be looking elsewhere, and I think again it's PSG that seems to be the thing. He's very big up on fashion and is involved in that kind of thing, isn't he? So Paris is obviously quite a big place in the world for that. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm not giving my thoughts on Paris as a city, but we'll move on. Another player to mention is, we've all seen what Jamie Carragher said, didn't he? Leave football before the football leaves you, and that is, got multiple Champions League winner in Casemiro. Do you think he's? I mean, he's probably going to go into, but he's another one on an obscene wages. Do you think his kind of legs have just gone for the Premier League, really?
Yeah, I think he showed signs last year, because at the first season he came in absolutely instrumental,
brilliant against us. Yeah,
really, really good, strong. Obviously knows the game inside out, but I do think so. The pre-season last season, he came out of that and just looked like he'd lost that yard. And then this season again, he's probably upped his performances a little bit, but it's just, again, your legs just get to that point. Look at some of the lads that are coming through. Like, we had Ledy Yoro come on last night. He's 18. We've got 17-year-old players. I think Arsenal have brought a sub on that was 16 this year. There's a lot of players that are coming through that can just run rings around people like that. No matter how you read the game and stuff like that, I think it sometimes does get to that point where you have to really consider it. I think the likelihood is he'll probably go for a final payday in like Saudi, something like that. But yeah, I mean, like look at last night. As soon as you play in a pacey team, straight away Amarim's not played him. And I don't think you can when you've got the likes of Rice and Odegaard running rings around people. So
yeah, tremendous foot. He was brilliant against us, Odegaard. I was gutted he come back for us because he ran the show, as did annoyingly,
he's
did
brilliant. He's
De
brilliant.
Bruyne last night as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, two best number 10s in the league last two kind of aways for us. But
Yeah.
to bring you back to last season, obviously last time us guys played was at ours, and it was. I'll just remind you that Forest won 2-1. But
You've mentioned it a few times.
yeah, I've mentioned it a few times. Obviously there was a video what went round obviously on Forest Twitter. I don't know if it did come across. It probably did come across United, but it showed the Forest team huddle saying that Morgan Gibbs White was our captain that night. He said to all our players that basically your team didn't fancy it in the tunnel, and he used that as kind of a motivating tool. Do you think there's substance to that, and it was that kind of has that kind of been a worry over the last few years for United?
I think definitely last season you could see it on the pitch. It just looked deflated. There was a lack of performance. There was hardly any running. And again, that's where Rashford comes in. I think Sancho made a couple of appearances. He then went to Dortmund. He's come back on to Chelsea. It's just certain players just haven't had that get up and go with it. I mean, there's been times where you can just visibly see it, where the players are just looking and they just don't seem interested. And again, I think that's got a lot to do with the management. Obviously, Ten Hag wasn't doing it. There obviously wasn't a rapport there with the team. And already, look, I've seen some of the training sessions with Amarim, and it just seems there's a lot of energy there, and there's more involvement. He's in the huddles with them. He's in the passing and moving and everything like that. He's just getting more involved, and it's more kind of likable character. And I think again, he can relate with them a little bit more because he's played at a decent level. He's still, 38? So, which is crazy, really. That's his same age, and he's managing the biggest club in the world.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Yeah, because the FA Cup game springs to mind last year between us because we just all of a sudden loved joining each other in the cup after not playing each other for 30 odd years. That night I'd never seen that is the laziest team performance I've seen at Forest probably until West Ham this season. And I was really disappointed actually on the night we didn't beat you. We had a lot of players away at AFCON and injuries then, and I kind of think because we was in a relegation battle, Nuno kind of thought, well, I'm not too fussed and was happy to kind of go out. And obviously Casemiro bloody scored against us again. So I just like the running from United, the work rate. I just thought this is, like you said, this is the biggest club in England, and I just thought the work rate was pathetic. But obviously, coming away from United onto us, what have your thoughts been on Forest so far this season?
Been really impressed. I think I said, I don't know if it was you that I was speaking to about it, but I did say to people it's all about how you handle that first loss.
It was me,
because you can kind of ride the crest of a wave a little bit. And there's no doubt, some of the football you were playing was fantastic. Obviously, Chris Wood was in probably the form of his life. He was putting him away for fun.
He missed an absolute sitter last night. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it. But I missed the boat a little bit with FPL on him, I think. And then
I took him out, thankfully.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the football you've been putting together has been really, really good. You've got a few decent defenders, the midfield. I think your midfield probably needs shoring up a little bit. But I think the realistic goal for you guys is probably 10th, 11th, which I think would be a fantastic season considering what was going on last year. So yeah, I've liked what I've seen really so far.
Yeah, expectation levels have gone up because we obviously won at Anfield. We drew with Chelsea away, drew with Brighton away. We've been pretty decent at home, and then obviously now we've been giving a bit of a kick up the backside from Arsenal and Man City, who are two of the best teams in the country. Everyone's little whinging a bit, but the midfield, I do agree with you. The midfield, we are missing a couple in the centre mid. Danilo and Sangare, who are Sangara's his record signing, and Danilo's obviously really high potential. He was linked with you, I believe, in the summer. And then we're kind of not willing to kind of hang his hat on James Ward-Prowse in there. So that is something. Hopefully we can improve for Saturday, because we just got run all over the park last night in that area. I mean, what's kind of United's weaknesses, and where do you think Forest could kind of exploit them? What players from Forest do you think could really hurt United, and where?
Well, I think it all depends who plays for us, to be honest. I know I think Martinez will be back. And then obviously Lenny Yoro came on last night. Whether or not he'll start on Saturday is another question, but he looked pretty sharp when he came on. But I think any kind of area that you could go is probably the wide areas at the minute, because obviously you've got Ahmad, who's playing right wing back, usually a right winger. So I think his defensive duties have got to be up to bit. He's not the most physical. He's not a massive lad, so that's probably an area that could be looked at. But I think just the way you guys come forward, I think, could sometimes hurt us, because we like to break quite a bit, but then because of the new shape, we sometimes don't seem to get back in shape pretty quick. Whereas you look at your Arsenals, your Liverpools, your Cities, as soon as they lose the ball, everybody knows where they need to be, and they're in position. They've got at least 8-9 behind the ball, and they can face up again. Whereas I think at the moment, that's where the fact that we've got people like Rashford, who's not necessarily running his socks off, and people like that, it can hurt us a little bit. Although that being said, we've still got, I think, along with you guys, or depending on the scores last night, we had like the third best defence in the league. So
I think ours was second, but it's kind of gone to pot last few games. 3 at Arsenal, 3 at City. Just someone to mention, it just popped into my mind, because obviously he's a former player of yours and someone who we actually signed from you, Anthony Elanga. He's copping quite a bit of stick from our fans at the minute. What did you kind of make of him? I mean, it's probably something we covered at the time, but what did you kind of make? I know he was very raw as well at United, and it was like some appearances, etc. What did you kind of make of Elanga at the time when he was at United?
A little bit hit and miss. I mean, it's hard to really say, because obviously I think
some of our fans are saying he's a speedboat without a driver.
Yeah, probably a good analogy. I think he's got the pace. I think the problem is, like, when he came over, I think he was probably one of the signings where you'd say, and obviously don't take this the wrong way, but is he a Man United player? Like, I think that's always the kind of expectation when you sign a new player. Like, even like we look at Lenny Yoro, who came in this time, there was a lot of hype about him. He was talked about. He was quite well regarded, even as a young lad. That's the kind of player that the club should be bringing in regularly, as opposed to realistically, before he came to United, like, who was Anthony Elanga? And I think he had a couple of good games for us. He scored a few decent goals, but I mean, he hit a bit of form with you guys for
he was good last season.
3-4 months, and I had a few Forest fans, like a few of my mates, jibbing me on Twitter, saying that now he's come over to Forest, he's actually started to turn up. So, but yeah, I mean, I've not really seen much of him this season, but yeah, I know from what I did see last season, he seemed to be on fire for you guys, really.
Yeah, he's kind of gone off the boil this season. I mean, in my opinion, if some fans are going a bit over the top on him, but he's not been as good as he was last season. But I'm not sure if he'll start or not on Saturday. I expect Hudson-Odoi to come back in. He didn't play last night, so we shall see. But could you give us a lineup prediction for you guys? What you kind of expect to go with Saturday evening?
Well, I think what I'd expect and what I'd like, probably two different things. I think.
Go with what you expect, mate. What Amorim you kind of expect him to go with?
What I'd expect is probably, obviously, Onana, and then you've probably got Dalot on the left wing back, and 3 centre backs. You've probably got Martinez, De Ligt, depending on what happened with him last night, because I know he had a bit of a knock, but he carried on. And then I'd like to say Yoro coming in, but then I'd probably say Maguire. Ahmad on the right, and then in the middle, I'd probably look at Agate and Mainu because he's back from suspension as well. And then I'd probably go with Rashford, Bruno, and Højlund.
Okay, so quite pretty strong then. That's probably your strongest team, would you say?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I'd say that's the ideal. But again, we'll see. He might throw Malacia out there again, depending what's going on with Dalla.
Okay, and then last but not least, mate, are you going on Saturday, or did you manage to get a ticket? Or
debating, there is still tickets available. I was just having a chat with the missus, but I've got a few nights out planned, and her being pregnant, I don't really want to take the piss too much. So I think it'll
just a score prediction then, mate. What do you expect?
I think we'll be looking. I reckon 2-1 either way.
Yeah. Okay, 2-1 either way. So you think so you wouldn't surprise you if we was to get a result against you? What kind of makes you say that?
No. So just again because of the kind of early season football I've seen that's been played and what people have said. I think just because you played the likes of you've played the likes of Arsenal and City recently. It doesn't really change and take away from what you have been playing. So you don't know. I mean, I'm not even going to begin to put us in the same category as those two at the minute. But yeah, it only takes someone to put in a decent performance. You never know, do you? So yeah, I don't think it will be a walkover. I think it'll be pretty close.
Yeah, well, let's hope for a good game. Obviously, from our perspective, hopefully we can get a result and get back on track. But thanks for coming on, mate, and I will wish you good luck on Saturday. But hopefully, at the end of it, you're upset.
We'll see.
We'll see. All right.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.